In the turmoil of the Russian-Ukrainian conflict, a curious tale unfolds in the serene shores of Sri Lanka. Amidst the chaos, a wave of refugees sought solace in this tropical heaven, and graciously, Sri Lanka extended its arms, offering free visas as a beacon of hope. Yet, amidst this backdrop of generosity, a tempest brewed when these displaced souls, dare we call them refugees, decided to host a soirée, a party, mind you, open exclusively to those of a fairer complexion, a white-only party, that is. Now, in a nation steeped with hues of brown, this gesture was as controversial as it was audacious. The backlash was swift, with murmurs of discontent echoing across the island. Sri Lanka, in its magnanimity, had its patience tested, and thus, amidst the whispers and raised eyebrows, a decision was made to bid farewell to these guests, offering them a one-way ticket back to their troubled homelands. As the saga unfolds, let's get into the reactions, for therein lies the heart of this captivating tale.
So let me get this straight. The country Sri Lanka, which has predominantly brown people, but some black people in there, was kind enough to open the doors for, predominantly Russians, but also Ukrainians that were fleeing the current conflict. They've got a bit of a lax visa policy. You can come for 30 days, but they keep extending it and stuff like that. So you were fleeing the current conflict that's going on between Russia and Ukraine. You move to the country, and then you are instituting parties that are for just white people. Do you know how crazy that sounds? But then, who's surprised? Because let's not forget, this is the same thing that happened in other parts of the world. And we have the current situation of Palestine. We have South Africa as a great example, and we have other countries in Africa that face the same situation. So, what does that say? Colonization is just a thing that some people love. The actions just prove that they don't shy away from anything that's going to put them above the population of people that actually there to begin with. How can a country just open themselves to you because they're giving you sanctuary, and then you come there and you're like, nah, but you know what? We just want a party that is white people on. The organizer of the party has come out saying, no, they didn't mean to be racist or any sort of discrimination. It was a bit of a faux pas, whatever the case may be. But it does really stink because there is traction for this. It's just wild. It's just wild. But hey, it is what it is.
So this definitely has to be one of the more interesting titles that I've seen in a long time. Sri Lanka has ended free long-term visas for Russians and Ukrainians following outrage over a whites-only party. And no, my friends, this is not 1920. We're not talking about Russian whites as in the monarchist or anything like that. This whole thing somehow got racial. But how the hell does something like this actually happen? Well, as I'm sure that many of you are already aware, the Russo-Ukrainian war is still something that is currently ongoing, and there are many thousands of people who have fled from both countries to try and escape the conflict. With one of those countries being Sri Lanka, which actually granted free visas to Russians and Ukrainians that were trying to escape. Which sounds awesome, right? I'm sure no one would absolutely do anything to screw that up. Well, it seems that there was severe outrage in the country after a Russian-owned nightclub went and tried to host a party that was going to have face control white, signifying that your face had to be like this to get into the party.
I couldn't go to the party?
No. The response to which from the government has been, okay, no more free visas, now you have to actually pay for it. The definition of F around and find out.
What in the Russia versus Ukraine is this? So let me get this straight. These Russians who, by the way, have run away from Russia because they don't want to be forcefully enlisted in the military to fight the war, who were hiding in Sri Lanka, decided that it's a good idea to throw a race party? You know what? You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna call Putin. I think everybody should tag Putin. Hey Putin, take your people back. They're hiding here. They're hiding in Sri Lanka. Here they are throwing race parties. Take them back, Putin. That should be their punishment. That's some real. You come to my country and you throw parties without allowing us? Bloody hell, what in the... Look at some race.
Imagine being a refugee, like you're escaping a literal war and still making time for race. This is what I mean when I say marginalized people need to stop being so nice, being so accepting. Because Sri Lanka accepted Russian refugees only for them to get there and make a white-only club or white-only party. What is wrong with you people?
It's only people that do this kind of bullshit. You will never hear of black people going to another country and then trying to establish black only spaces. You will never see brown people go to another country and try to have brown only or Asian only or Arab only. There's never that mentality in other groups except for people. You went to another country because you're fleeing from your own because there's a war, and then you decide that you're going to have white spaces in another country that does not belong to you, that you're seeking refuge in. Another country where you are a refugee and are there because of a tourist visa, because the government has graciously allowed you to be there because they know that you're running away from a war. And because of one man's decision, hundreds and thousands of people's visas are going to be revoked. Because this man decided he wanted a whites-only space in Sri Lanka when he's Russian. What people honestly want everybody else to accommodate them anywhere they go in the world, and they believe they're entitled to that. And it honestly pissed me off because no other group in the world does that.
One thing's for certain, two things for sure: a colonizer will colonize everywhere they go. They will waste no opportunity in doing just that. They will leave no stone unturned in the efforts to colonize and take what does not belong to them. Sri Lanka, being the country that it is, opened its doors to these refugees and provided a safe haven for all of them. They said, look, our doors are open, come on in and let us be your refuge. And they walked right on in. Yes, they did. Now, once there, some of these Russian and Ukrainian citizens established businesses. Now, it is being reported that there were some nightclubs and cafes that were white-only establishments. Now, recently, a club promoter and a club owner, Russian both, has come under some fire for promoting an event that was dubbed as a white party type of event, but with special entry, that being whiteface. So now they have come under fire for this by the Sri Lanka citizens. Now, my understanding that authorities in Sri Lanka have said that they want the refugees, that being Ukraine and specifically Russian, from my understanding, it's some reports says it's both, and other reports says it's just Russian. But what I've seen consistently is that they want both Ukrainian and Russians to leave within 2 weeks. Now, the president of Sri Lanka has said, hold up, hold your mule. I didn't say anything about that. Well, whose authority is this? Who passed? Who said we could do that? Who told y'all that y'all can push that through? I need to investigate. So he's going to investigate whether or not they can actually have them leave. Anywho, I'm just saying, colonizers will waste no opportunity in trying to colonize and take what doesn't belong to them.
A party in Sri Lanka has sparked controversy after appearing to be only for whites. Let me explain. A party at a Russian-run nightclub near the coastal tourist town of Gal advertised a, quote, white party to refer to the dress code. However, the advertisement also had a line that read, quote, face control, white. After the organizer of the event apologized, authorities in Sri Lanka announced they would not be extending visas for Russians. However, the president of Sri Lanka cast doubt on that plan, saying it couldn't be done without cabinet approval. The party was cancelled, and days later, the organizer of the event apologized on social media, saying there was, quote, no malice or race behind the idea for the party. He said he has since had to flee the country after facing threats and harassment. The event received a barrage of backlash on social media, with some calling it racist and disgusting. The Russian embassy in Colombo responded in a statement saying they, quote, strongly condemn. The embassy confirmed the organizer and main owner of the club are Russian. The organizer of the event said the event was intended to bring together expats that have been living in Sri Lanka to get to know each other. It's estimated that about 288,000 Russians have moved to Sri Lanka since the Russian invasion of Ukraine 2 years ago.
Yo, I've been seeing this situation for a hot minute. When I see stuff like this, I just wonder, like, do white people look at this and just be like, yo, these white people set us back like 200, 300 years or whatever, bro? Like, or do y'all, I don't know, bro, because the colonizer is speaking very, very loudly in this. Very, very loudly. So I just be wondering, like, is a new age of white people looking at this as like, you shouldn't have got caught? Or they looking at it as like, y'all set us back so many years? Like, yeah, see, that's crazy, bro. How you move to a country like this? I mean, I don't even know if Sri Lanka's get as dark. Actually, yeah, Sri Lanka's be getting as dark as me. Maybe even darker. I just think white only bars try to segregate, bro.
Now that we've seen the reaction videos, let's get started with our breakdown. But first up, a hypothetical scenario. Imagine you are the epitome of compassion, offering a homeless soul a sanctuary from the cold streets, providing not just shelter, but warmth, sustenance, and a sense of belonging. You open your heart and your home, declaring they are welcome to stay as long as they please. But hold on to your hats, folks, because this heartwarming tale takes a sharp left turn into controversy. Beneath that grateful exterior lies a troubling truth. Your newfound guest harbors not just a distasteful prejudice, but a downright repugnant disdain for you and your family. Can you believe it? He has the audacity to throw a party in your home, declaring that your own flesh and blood, your little ones mind you, are unwelcome because of the color of their skin or his inflated sense of superiority. Outrageous, isn't it? As you ponder the appropriate response to such egregious behavior, let me tell you, dear listeners, this isn't just a hypothetical scenario. No, Siri, it's unfolding right before our very eyes. Now, the million-dollar question is Sri Lanka's swift action justified, or are they just perhaps overreacting? Now, let's talk about selflessness and self-love. Where does the line between altruism and self-preservation blur, and the destination holds the key to inner harmony? In the realm of over-selflessness, one becomes a beacon of boundless generosity, ever eager to pour out kindness upon others, regardless of their worthiness. It's a noble trait, a testament to one's innate goodness and compassion. Yet therein lies a perilous path when the recipients of such unyielding benevolence fail to reciprocate, when their gratitude is but a fleeting whisper in the wind. A disheartening silence lingers. It's in these moments that the call of self-love beckons, a gentle reminder that kindness, though a virtue, should not be squandered on those who cannot appreciate its value. It's a delicate balance, a dance between giving and receiving, where one must learn to cherish oneself as fiercely as they do others. For true self-care is not selfishness in disguise, but rather a profound acknowledgement of one's worth, a declaration that one's well-being is just as deserving of care and attention as anyone else's. It's about reclaiming agency over one's own happiness and unapologetically prioritizing one's needs and desires. So in the tapestry of love, let us weave threads of both selflessness and self-love, recognizing that while the former may illuminate the path of compassion, it is the latter that nourishes the soul and sustains us through the trials of existence. Talking about selflessness, let's talk about Sri Lanka granting those refugees free visas. While it may seem like an altruistic gesture on the surface, the reality is far more nuanced. By waiving visa fees, Sri Lanka not only incurred a direct economic burden, but also indirectly impacted the livelihoods of its citizens. Let's break it down. In offering free visas, Sri Lanka essentially diverted resources that could have been utilized elsewhere, resources that these individuals ought to have contributed towards. Moreover, the financial burden of hosting these refugees likely fell on the shoulders of Sri Lanka's taxpayers, adding an additional strain to an already delicate economic system. It's a stark reminder of the hidden costs of selflessness and the complex interplay between generosity and sustainability. Now, let's get into the treacherous waters of the I wanna rule you mentality, shall we? Imagine you've got a friend, a confidant, someone you've always been there for. Through thick and thin, you lend a listening ear, offer the shirt off your back, and gladly play the role of faithful sidekick whenever they need you. But when the turbos turn and it's your turn to lean on them, suddenly they're nowhere to be found. Sound familiar? Is the classic tale of one-sided friendship, where your kindness is taken for granted and your generosity exploited. But here's the kicker. Beneath that facade of friendship lies a darker truth, a mentality that seeks to control and manipulate. Call it the I wanna rule you syndrome, a mindset that sees others as mere pawns to be used and discarded at will. And just like that fair weather friend, these refugees come from a culture steeped in a similar mentality. They may feign gratitude, but deep down, they are plotting their next move, always ready to take advantage of your goodwill. So let that sink in for a moment. No matter how genuine you believe someone to be, if they are harboring an I wanna rule you mentality, they'll always find a way to exploit your kindness, draining your resources and leaving you high and dry. It's a sobering reality check, reminding us to tread carefully in the murky waters of human relationships. People will always be people, and our palm color friends will always be their palm color selves. Bearing that in mind, you, my friends, are now ready for the journey ahead. As we wrap up this discussion, it's time for a little self-reflection, folks. Whether you are marginalized, a selfless soul, or just a generally good-hearted individual, it's time to shake things up and reinvent yourself. Let's hit pause for a moment and ponder those instances where our kindness has been taken for granted, where we've unwittingly become slaves to the whims of others. It's time to break free from the shackles of excessive niceness and reclaim our autonomy. By redirecting resources and energy back towards ourselves, we pave the way for a brighter future. It's all about nurturing and nourishing our own well-being, ensuring that we are equipped to thrive in this chaotic world. So, if you've enjoyed this eye-opening journey, be sure to hit that like button, share with your fellow travelers on the journey to self-discovery, and don't forget to subscribe for more insightful musings. Until next time, folks, stay curious, stay empowered, and remember to always put yourself first. Cheers to the journey ahead.